The Soviet Union at the height of its power. In 1961, a Soviet Air Force pilot became the first human being to be sent up into space. A monumental achievement for mankind. Slightly short-lived though, as in 1991 the Soviet Union was geographically reduced to its former core landmass. Soviet secret police took control of the government and things drastically changed for the Soviet Union's position on the competitive global stage. The reason for this video is to explore the many ways in which the Soviet Union's successor state, the Russian Federation, appears to be following a vastly similar trajectory that led to the Soviet Union's collapse. It's no secret that the image of Vladimir Putin has been peddled across the globe as the world's public enemy #1 for the last 6 months or so. But the same thing that brought down the Soviet Union looks like it's about to do the same for Russia today. The issue here is, of course, oil. That's right, oil. The age-old resource at the heart of many of mankind's major historical conflicts. Experts across the world have been alarmingly reporting that oil and gas is the cause of an impending spiral into a deep crisis for the Russian state. To fully appreciate this, we need to explore exactly what keeps the Russian state moving along. In this video, we will explain how the crisis in oil and gas has tumbled like a snowball into a major economic crisis and a foreign policy crisis. In fact, almost all the disastrous problems Russia is facing today can be rooted back to the issues Russia is facing in oil and gas. Before we dive deep, please make sure you give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel, the #1 finance and economics channel on the line. It's no secret that today Russia has become an energy tycoon on the global stage. That's right, most of Russia's power stems from the major strategic oil and gas assets inherited from its historical Soviet past. These include major European pipelines and relatively enormous oil and gas fields that were formerly crucial to the Soviet territory. The energy advantage Russia possesses has perpetuated its powerful position in global politics and power struggles. Some experts have even been known to refer to Russia as an oil company first and foremost, with their president as a CEO. In fact, many of you may not recall, but somewhat comically, Senator John McCain once referred to Russia as a gas station masquerading as a legit company. Although seemingly offensive, Russia's global dominance in energy production is certainly uncontestable. This is a nation that literally sprays oil and gas down the throats of its competitors. Vladimir Putin is well known to refer to Russia as a global energy superpower, and it's hard to disagree with this. Indeed, Russia is actually one of the top 3 crude producers in the world, along with the United States and even Saudi Arabia. In 2021, Russia's crude oil output made up a staggering 14% of the world's total supply. Can you even imagine having such a large share of the market in the world's most valuable fuel commodity? And if that wasn't enough, Russia is also by far the world's second largest producer of natural gas, has the world's largest natural gas reserves on the planet, as the world's leading exporter of gas. Not surprisingly, both Europe and China make up Russia's biggest energy customers. Any guesses on who is the biggest supplier of gas to Europe? That's right, you got it, Russia. Russian gas makes up around 40% of the EU's consumption. Given these staggering statistics, it would be easy to jump at the conclusion that Europe is extremely dependent on Russian gas, right? Certainly not a good thing when in the midst of a conflict in Ukraine. But looking at the situation from the opposite side, we can also say that Russia is heavily dependent on Europe as its biggest cash cow customer of its energy products. In fact, Russia has been criticized by many for depending too much on its energy exports and for failing to follow the example of, let's say, Saudi Arabia, who were smart enough to diversify their economy from oil alone. Similar to the Soviet Union, we now have a Russia that is looking to face monumental issues should they prove unable to continue taking advantage of their main energy exports. This is a Russia far too dependent on European money to survive without it. Indeed, Russia's over-reliance on fuel exports causes the nation to take huge hits when global oil prices plummet. Many are starting to point out this over-reliance is likely the catalyst to Russia's collapse. We can all appreciate the volatility of the oil price. Apart from truly crazy assets like perhaps cryptocurrency, oil is one of the most volatile assets on the market. So to have your economy virtually pegged to the oil price is absolute madness, to say the least. It seems Russia has not learned from previous issues. Historically speaking, low oil prices during the 2010s severely impacted Russia's oil revenues, which obviously had a huge impact on the nation's plans and budgets. Compare this to other oil-dependent nations, and we could see that countries like Saudi Arabia were smart enough to rely on multiple other sectors to keep their economy winning. You might ask why Russia didn't choose to do the same. Many argue that Putin deliberately failed to strengthen the Russian economy through diversification and innovation. At times where the country was previously doing well from high oil prices, the state did nothing to incentivize Russian oil companies to expand into new oil fields and improve their technology, which, at this point, is still dated back to Soviet-era extraction methods. The result is that although Russia has incredibly vast wealth and energy resources, they simply have not invested in optimizing their technology to capitalize on those resources fast enough. Historically, many other countries around the world have found themselves in this position. Take, for example, Nigeria, where oil is abundant, but the nation does not have the means to extract it themselves. In this situation, national governments will usually broker deals with foreign oil companies to come and extract it themselves. This is something Russia is not best placed to do. It's no secret that international affairs are not the country's strong point. Consider their aggressive taxes, complex regulatory system, and inherent distrust of foreigners, especially Western companies, and you have a very poor likelihood of collaboration. And then, of course, it's simply impossible not to consider the ongoing conflict in Ukraine here. This is a situation that, amongst all else, has far-reaching implications for the global oil and gas market. Some experts have made no secret of pointing out that Ukraine is a former Soviet Union nation, which holds crucial oil and gas infrastructure that is invaluable to modern Russia's ability to transport fuel across Europe. What is paramount to Russia is whether or not Ukraine stands as pro-Russian or pro-West. Conflict has arisen numerous times in recent history, especially surrounding Ukraine's willingness to transit fuel through its country to the rest of Europe. Disputes regarding transit fees have often occurred and have heightened tensions between the two nations. This underpins a clear geopolitical role that Ukraine has inadvertently adopted in the gas price disputes and management of the gas hub in Europe. Experts also assume that, historically speaking, conflicts with Ukraine serve Putin to distract attention away from Russia's own economic issues. In 2005, 2006, and 2009, Putin executed drastic action including dramatically raising gas prices and radically reducing or completely stopping Russian gas exports to Europe for a significant period, leaving many European homes without energy. Notably, these events took place around the time of the 2008 financial crisis, which had a huge negative effect on the Russian economy at the same time. There was also the 2014 annexation of Crimea, which some believe was also a response to the threat of Crimea selling their own oil and gas to Europe to undercut Russia's export of the same. Over time, and since these incidents, Europe attempted to gain more independence from Russian energy, including strong sanctions against Russia's largest state-owned multinational energy corporation, Gazprom. It goes without saying, these steps have had a negative impact on Russia's economy. Now, in the current situation, the EU is trying even harder to phase out Russian energy. It doesn't take an expert to see that Russia is in big trouble. It seems the West has grown tired of the constant manipulation of energy prices, and any shortfalls of energy experienced in the meantime only goes further to increase hostile sentiment towards Russia in Europe. Without Europe as a reliable customer, Russia will need to double down on alternate relations, such as the Asian market. Many also point to Russia's growing relations with new emerging international markets, such as Brazil, India, and China. Putin will need to work hard to make these relationships fruitful enough that they stop the fallout with Europe from affecting his domestic popularity. Many believe domestic sentiment of Putin is growing fragile and will not be able to endure any more hardship experienced by the Russian population. Indeed, some might say Russia is reflecting ever more its former appearance at the collapse of the Soviet Union. Who could have imagined that this oil and gas crisis could be at the heart of what is beginning to seem like Russia's being phased out of the international community? But what do you think? Is this the end of Russia energy dominance? Or will new relationships without wealthy nations prove too powerful for the West? Let us know in the comments section below. Finally, make sure you like this video and subscribe to our channel, the #1 finance and economics channel on the line.